everybody. It's a great day to be alive. It's Tommy Lee Francis with Morgan County Today. We are here live tonight on Thursday, June the 30th. I'm here with two fine men to talk about some important issues facing Wartburg City. They're both candidates for the city mayor position, and that election is August the 5th. Early voting starts July 15th. It's August the 4th. If you show up on the 5th, you're not going to be able to vote. Sorry, guys. You know, I'm used to being funny, and this is a serious time, so we're going to work through this. I told those guys. So, anyway, without further ado, we're going to get started. It's a gentleman's agreement. It's going to be more of a forum where we just kind of talk through some things. They'll each have some opportunities to share their visions for the future of the city of Wartburg, and you guys feel free to comment, and make sure you share the post so people can watch as well and tune in. This is an important thing so that we can all see basically where these guys stand for the future of this little city here in Wartburg. So without further ado, guys, we'll get started. We flipped a coin earlier, and I think Phil won the coin toss and deferred to the second half. So he has deferred here to Doug Garrett. Neither one have saw the questions previous to me having them here. I did not give them. I did tell them what the first one was, which was they would give an intro. But I have these questions that were submitted by some voters here and also some other folks. We may not get to every question that you ask about on the comment line, but if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in there, okay? So, Doug, just give us an intro about yourself. Tell us about yourself.
First of all, Tommy, thanks for having us here. I'm a native of Wartburg, been here my whole life. Graduated from Wartburg Central High School. My family's had a long history of being in Wartburg. My grandparents owned a business on Main Street for several years that my parents took, and then they run for several more years, and then finally ended up running the business for a while. It's a great little town. It's Mayberry. I have two kids. One of them still lives in the Wartburg area. My daughter's in medical school up at LMU. But that's me. I've been here. Most people that probably know me remember me from the school zone down at the elementary school, seeing me every morning down there. But I've been in law enforcement of some sort for almost 31 years. I started out Department of Corrections. I've worked with the City of Wartburg, City Police Department. I'm currently with Morgan County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, Doug, I appreciate that. Make sure you talk a little closer to the mic. You can pull it down there. Folks are saying they can't hear that good, so that's the way it goes. Okay, Phil, let us know about yourself.
All right, once again, Tommy, I want to thank you and appreciate you having us out here and giving us this opportunity. Of course, I'm Phil Vespie. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Wartburg as well. Raised my family here, got plenty of children and grandchildren. My father was a businessman here, ran Vespie's Auto Parts for years and years and years. I've had a long history and background in community service and stuff, too. I spent 25 years working for Morgan County EMS, Gulf War veteran, and currently serving the last 8 years as an alderman with the city of Wartburg and current vice mayor. And there's not a better place to be. I've been to a lot of other places when I was in the military, and it sure did feel good to come back home. And there's nothing like it. And as Doug said, yeah, it's kind of like Mayberry. So much has changed, but then again, so much is still the same.
Yeah. So thank you, Phil. As an alumni of Wartburg Central High School, went through Wartburg Elementary and then Wartburg High School. They didn't have the middle school at the time. So it's sure and dear to my heart, even though I'm not a city voter. I know there's a lot of folks here, and the city has grown. So we appreciate y'all taking the time out tonight to be here. This debate will last approximately 45 to 50 minutes, and then these two gentlemen have other obligations to get to tonight. So we'll make sure that we try to ask as many questions as we can and not linger around. So, Doug, why are you running? This is for both of you guys.
Well, Tommy, several years ago, when I was running a business here in town, there were some things that come up, and just asking questions on how the city government was running and how we got things done. There were some things that got kind of opened my eyes to that I kind of scratched my head and thought, well, why is it that way? And the only real answer I could really get was they said, this is the way it's always been. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, progress is not something where we just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different outcome. I think we need to be innovative on what we're doing here in the city of Wartburg. I think we need to move it, at a good pace on making some changes. But basically, the business owners was one of the main reasons I wanted to get involved in this race. It's kind of a unique situation. The city voters are the people who live in the cities, but the business owners really don't have a whole lot of say unless they come to the city council meeting. They can say their piece at those things, but they really don't have a vote in those situations.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Phil, why are you running?
Well, I want to see progress here too, and believe it or not, in the last 8 years we have made some progress, be it at a snail's pace. You know, we were strapped financially for about the last 4 to 5 years. Things have started slowly getting better, and we're progressing that way. You know, I want to work with the business owners here. I want to see the businesses thrive. I want to get as much business in here as we can. And looking towards the future, I've got plans. I mean, I've got annexation that's on my mind and stuff to help grow it to where we can bring more business in here, because we live off sales tax revenue and per capita tax. We don't have a city tax. A lot of people think that we do, the city property tax, and we do not. And I'm going to make sure that that never happens if there's anything that I can do with it. And to Doug's point about bringing up about the business owners not having a vote, that is something that I've been looking at and hoping to change if I'm elected. And just want to see things keep going in the right direction.
Phil, we appreciate that. Doug, he brought up about the city property tax, which is one of my questions here. Phil has made it clear he's not for city property tax. How do you feel about a city property tax?
I'm going to agree with Phil on this. I think the American people and the citizens of our county are tired of the tax situation, stuff like that. But the only way to keep things like that is we're going to have to get innovative on bringing business in. Being out on the campaign trail, one thing has come crystal clear. There's not a lot of room for housing. So what little bit we get off of that, the only thing we have room for is business. And we've got to be able to grow that business, bring tax revenue in, and that can offset some of the expenses that keep going higher and higher, so we don't have to have a city tax.
Okay, thank you. That's a big issue, because I know in Sunbright, the city, they had a city property tax initiated, and they brought in a police force to pay for that, right? Well, they've got rid of their police force, but they still have a city property tax. So I know a lot of folks' fear is always, once that gets its grip in, society or whatever, it's not going away. So that's a good thing to not have, in my opinion. But, again, I appreciate y'all's response on that. So when you're talking about a city property tax, another tax that sometimes comes up is a wheel tax. So, Phil, we'll go with you first here. What do you think about a wheel tax?
Dead set against it. The last thing anybody needs is another tax. We have made it this far, and we can continue on if we keep pushing forward and everything. Like I said, our business, our revenue, and things are coming forward. And like I say, we've come a long way as far as revenue and everything goes. And Doug mentioned the housing. Well, that's one thing that I will throw in here. He is correct, and that's one thing that I'm proud that we did accomplish, is we managed about a year ago, Parkview Apartments came to us, and they were looking to expand and build at least a couple more units. But they had an issue about the sewer. So we worked out the deal. They were on a private sewer pump. So we took it over, hooked them to our sewer and everything, and now hopefully within the next year, they'll start construction on 2 more units, so that'll bring more housing for everybody here. So that's a start.
Okay, Doug, what about you, a wheel tax?
Dead set against it. Like I said, I think, just like I said earlier, taxes are, there would have to be an absolute, no other choice for any type of tax in Wartburg. I'll just go on the record saying that. I mean, and living here and have been involved with some of the meetings and stuff like that, I can have to report. I mean, the city's in good shape as far as the revenue stuff. Like, could we do better? Yes. Is there more that can be done with grants and stuff like that? Of course. So I don't think there's ever going to be a need. The city of Wartburg needs either a wheel tax or a property tax.
Okay, thank you, Doug. So another question here. We've got some users submitting some, so we're going to skip some of mine to go to somebody's. CJ Porter wants to know, what's your number one priority if you were elected? Doug, we'll go with you first.
I think my first thing, and that goes back to when I opened up about some of the things that are going on with the city that I didn't understand about regulations and stuff like that, that property owners face, business owners faced. So my first thing that I'm going to be looking at in a very hard, long look is the city court. We have a book of ordinances here in the city of Wartburg, and to be just quite blunt, they're wrote on paper and there's no way of enforcing them. A city ordinance has to be heard in a city court. It can't be heard in a county court. So therefore, you have rules that are people can thumb their nose up and say they just don't want to do it. Imagine being a property owner, a business owner, and you have a pristine business in the city of Wartburg, yet the person beside you doesn't, and the ordinances would protect that person from a property being trashed up or piled up, which would take away from your business, but yet the ordinances can't be enforced to make those property owners abide by them. We don't have that court. We can't make them abide by it.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Now, Phil, I'm going to ask you the same question first, and then we're going to talk about that city court issue that he brought up, okay? So first is, what's your priority if you win?
My priority going forward from day one will be to get started working on these streets that are in some disrepair that need work. We're in a process. We've applied for a $600,000 paving and sidewalk grant, and hopefully we get approved. And if we do, you'll see some major things done there. The overall cleanliness of the city, update street lighting and things of that nature. From where we've been in the past 8 years, I see we've come leaps and bounds. We've got a strong foundation is what I'm trying to say. We are fiscally sound as we have ever, well, I won't say ever been, but almost ever been at least. We've took our reserves from when we went in 8 years ago from $200,000 to in excess of $750,000. We are on a sound foundation. We've got to start moving forward with some of this other. We struggled so hard to get all this other stuff took care of, and we were underwater in sewer all the time and things like that. But now we're at a point where we can go forward and start seeing basically infrastructure. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, Phil, thank you. So Doug touched on this a moment ago, so we'll kind of pose this as a question to both of you guys about a city court. So to give folks that are watching at home what a city court would look like or what it would be is, if you've been through Oliver Springs, Tennessee, you know what a city court is, because if you've accidentally went over the speed limit there and got hit with a ticket or whatever it might be, that's how they have city court. So when you go to the courtroom downtown Oliver Springs there, that's a city court. So it would be similar kind of setup there where maybe a mayor presides over it, or a judge or a magistrate or a lawyer or whatever would preside. So you guys can talk about that if you're for that, what benefits, what pros and cons would be. Since Doug brought that up first, Phil, I'll let you talk about that.
I wouldn't be opposed to a city court. Of course, here's the thing. You talk about ordinance violations. At this point, we have very few ordinance violations that come through. So basically what we're most dealing with would be like traffic tickets, citations, and stuff like that. The big problem with it is paying for it, because you have to have an attorney, and then you'll have to have a clerk or recorder. They get paid. So are you really is it going to generate that much revenue? It may not. So, I mean, I'm open to the idea, but there's going to have to be some hard looking and studying into it to make sure that it's even going to be feasible. And to touch on the point, I think I know the businesses that they're talking about. And if it is, we've looked at that ordinance real hard. And we've checked with the state of Tennessee, and those places are allowed up to 10 vehicles sitting in their parking lot before anything can be done. Trust me, we have looked, and we would love to fix it. But right now we're kind of handcuffed.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Doug, back to that point that you brought up there, which was about the city court. So let's talk about that, the pros and cons, in your opinion, of a city court.
Well, the pros on them, Tommy, are pretty simple. Like when I was talking about new businesses coming in, if you have somebody coming in looking to put a new business in Wartburg and you have similar situation, it's more than one place that has a business beside a business that doesn't take care of their property. And the first question they ask is, what do you do about buildings that are under decay and need to be tore down next to properties? I was a victim of that myself. I owned a piece of property on Main Street. There was a piece of property that had been condemned for years and still condemned. But the teeth of the ordinance is there's nothing that would force that person to either tear down the property or, pay the fines. It all goes back to growing the city. I mean, you've got to want people to come in and put a business on a beautiful main street or the main 4-lane out there. I mean, they're not looking for a place that they're going to have to clean up. I applaud Showtime Ford when they bought the property next to them and tore down the building. Did they have to do that? No. I mean, it was highly suggested, but if they wanted to say, no, we don't want to do it, they wouldn't have had to, simply because the ordinances are not enforceable. What if it comes up to somebody wants to put a sign up or a billboard up or something like that, that it has something undesirable on it, There's ordinances that can be enforced on that, but if you don't have a court to hear them in, you can't enforce those things.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Thank you, Phil, for that. Let's move on to the next subject here until we get another question here from the viewing audience. Let's talk about our city employees and your personal management experience, whatever that might be. So as the mayor of Wartburg, you'll have the kind of the reins of a body of workers, so that you can make sure the water and the sewer and the city workers are all taken care of. What's your management experience, and how do you approach city employees? Doug, we'll let you go first on this one.
Well, and as far as my experience goes, stuff like that, I was looking at the numbers of Wartburg city limits, and it varies depending on which agency you look. We were everywhere from 832 to 1,100 to 1,200 people inside the city limits of Wartburg. My experience, I've been as high as a deputy warden at a facility, 2 different facilities that were over 2,500 beds. We have everything a small city has like Wartburg. We have sewer. We have electric. We have water. We have all those things, budgetary stuff. So my experience may not be as in a city management. We had 450 plus employees also with those that were manageable. So yeah, I mean, as far as experiences, as far as supervising people, the greatest part of my 30 years of service with the state and have been in supervisor positions. It wasn't until I was a deputy with Morgan County Sheriff's Department or the city of Wartburg that I wasn't in a supervisor position.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Phil, same question. Your supervisory experience, basically, and how you deal with managing a workforce.
About 20 years worth of supervisory experience, and then plus what I've had with the city as far as being the vice mayor and everything, helping with the supervision and the daily operations of the city employees. You set expectations, and you make sure they understand those expectations. And if they're not meeting those expectations, then, you counsel them, talk to them, do what you need to do. But don't ask them to do anything you wouldn't be willing to do yourself. Treat them with respect. And the employees that we've got now is great. I wouldn't trade none of them for nothing. And there are no issues at this point in time. They really don't need a lot of management and supervision.
Appreciate that, Phil and Doug. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into that next part of this kind of question, because the city police force, right? That's the police force that's basically charged with making sure the citizens stay safe, that the businesses stay, operational and safe, and that they protect and serve. And let's talk about that. We have the longest-serving police chief in the history of Tennessee serving at the city police over there with Teddy Bales. He does a fantastic job. And I don't know if he's looking at retiring anytime soon, but there could be a potential opening there if he were to retire as for the chief of police. So let's talk kind of about the transition there, if there ever were one, if you were elected mayor. Let's also talk about the cohesiveness with the interagencies, right? So right now, Wartburg and the Morgan County Sheriff's Department work hand in hand on a lot of different crimes that they solve and other issues. They help each other, and they do probably work closer right now than they've ever worked, in the past. So we just kind of want to talk through that. Phil, I'll let you go first on this. Just kind of talk about the city police and how it runs and the potential for an opening there if Teddy were to retire, and what the process would be for you to replace him and to keep the county cohesiveness going with the county sheriff's department.
Well, Tommy, as you mentioned, I mean, they work hand in glove together, and, the city police department, they do a great job. They're few in number. They're underpaid like all the rest of them, bless their heart. They, they work hard. It's a family environment, even with the county officers. And as far as, in the future, if there was an open position, of course, you would open it up and you would take applications and go through it, do your due diligence and things like that. And, of course, you look for some recommendations as well. And you want to get the one that's the perfect fit to continue on, that doesn't change, come in and try to change things radically and stuff like that everybody's going to be able to work with. And, a lot of times proven commodity is the best way to go. So basically, what I'm saying is you probably would look hard internally first, but you still take all applications and interview. Leave your options open.
Okay, Phil, appreciate that. Doug, same questions. You need me to repeat them, or are you good?
Oh, no. I mean, I've been in law enforcement now for 5 years. I was in corrections for the 28 prior to that. And Chief Bells was the one who gave me my first chance in law enforcement. And I will always be indebted to Chief Bells. He's going to be one of those that's going to be a big void. He's known across the state. But to echo kind of what Phil said, I mean, it's one of those things that I think you have to be transparent with everything that you're doing with that. As far as if a position were to come open, you've got to open it up. You've got to look at all of your options on that to make the best decision. You want to try to keep the continuity that you have there to make a smooth transition. The other side of, the city of Wartburg, I mean, I'm fortunate enough to work with both agencies, and that's one thing that a lot of counties and cities you don't see. We have here, they work very closely together. They share a lot of assets and stuff that where both departments can't afford to have. One can afford this one, the other can afford that, and we kind of share those resources so we can make Morgan County and the city of Wartburg a safer place. I'll touch on this right here. When we was talking about the city court, that's one thing that would be instrumental. We have a major highway that comes through our city now, and it's 4-lane. And I don't want it to turn into, as you alluded to, in Oliver Springs. They write a lot of citations in Oliver Springs. But for the safety factor, we have 2 school zones that fall on that road. And I'm sorry, if you want to come through a school zone running 55 or 60 and it's a 15-mile-an-hour school zone, you deserve a ticket. I mean, our kids' safety needs to be paramount in that. I mean, if you can't do the speed limit in a school zone, then probably you should get a citation. Those revenues off of that, we buy more equipment, save, for our police departments, better training, some of the training we can't get into now because of budgetary stuff.
Okay, Doug, I appreciate that. So we want to move into one of our viewers' questions here. This one's may be simple for y'all, but we've heard this. I've heard this since we have 7 kids, me and my wife, so this means a lot to us, too. We would use it. But a splash pad. You guys have probably heard that question a million times out on the campaign trail. And I know Mayor Dagley probably heard it as well. And as an alderman, you've probably heard it. And even as a school resource officer, I'm sure you've heard it. A splash pad and how much that would bring to this community just being able to go and take your kids there. So I think, Doug, you're up next to go first. Let's talk about a splash pad.
Okay. This is it's probably one of the second or third things on my list that I'd love to see in the city of Wartburg. I have talked with Harriman and Clinton. Harriman has 2 now. Clinton's just got a brand new one. And I've asked them how some of the ways that they offset the expense of a splash pad. They've grants out there. The LCR, which is responsible for a lot of those type of grants, is one of the bigger ones that helps offset those fundings. Some of those are 50-50. But I will say this, a lot of the business owners in this town, when they asked me that question, well, what do you want to do for our kids, stuff like that, and that was one of the number one things that got brought up. They were willing to put their hard-earned money into something like that. They want to see Wartburg grow. There's corporate businesses now that have deeper pockets than probably some of our county agencies.
He's not talking about the Morgan County Today, folks.
But no, we have corporate. We have Taco Bell. We have Sonic. All those corporations, and they work in communities. I mean, you just got to be willing to go out there and do the work. That is another big area, grant work. I've talked to many people in Roane County, and I asked them, I said, how do you get some of these things that I see happening down here? And it's grant. You need to have a grant writer that helps you prepare you forward on that. And people says, well, that's going to cost money. Most of your grant writers, believe it or not, they get paid when they get the grant secured. So,
okay, Doug, thank you, Phil. Same question, splash pad.
Well, believe it or not, we actually looked hard into that 2 or 3 years ago, and we were going to try to pursue that. And this is where we ended up. You've seen all the work and the renovation at Solomon Park and everything. We got a $92,000 grant, but the catch was we had to do what they said we had to do because the park was not ADA compliant. So we had to use that grant money. We couldn't move forward until we got the rest of it ADA compliant. So in the future, we are looking to, hoping to do something like that. The biggest challenge that I see as far as the splash pad goes is if you see where most of the splash pads are sitting, they're sitting by a lake or something. You've got to have a constant water supply. So there's a big issue. So we're going to have to find out what happens if we dig a huge pond in the middle of Solomon Park down there, or are we going to be able to work something out, with Plateau Utility. We can start really going forward and looking hard into that planning, coming up in the very near future. But I'm all for it.
Doug, you got something you follow up on that?
And I just kind of echo what Phil said on the pond and stuff like that. That was one of the things that I was asking the questions about. Hey, did you work something out with the utility company? The newest splash pad, they have a reservoir. Your initial investment on your water, it has its own tank, and they refurbish that water. You do lose a little bit, evaporation and stuff like that, but most of your water is going to be in that tank being filtered, and it really cuts down on feed. Now, that's one of the newer things. Most of them are, like Phil said, around a lake where they can use that reservoir of water and not have to worry about it.
Phil, you got anything to like to add on that?
No.
So good news for anybody watching out there. At least both of these guys are going to pursue.
Absolutely.
Going to pursue the
Absolutely.
the splash pad. That's good. Okay. I was reading we do have one more question there. Let's go to another one here, and then I'll get to that one on there. So something that's been controversial in the past here in Wartburg, but is seemingly coming around the bend some point, is liquor by the drink. So, Phil, I think you get this one first. So tell us about liquor by the drink, for or against. How would that go about if that were to take place?
Well, excuse me. Well, first off, it would have to be put on a ballot, but we haven't got the appropriate number of residents in the city limits to ask for it, to have a petition for it to be put on the ballot. If you run the petition, they'd bring it to city council, present it to city council, request that it be put on a ballot. We would have the option, unless things have changed in the last little bit, to either vote no, we're not putting it on the ballot, or yes, we are. That's kind of a sticky issue with me, but I believe in the people's right. If it showed up and they want it put on a ballot, then I would support it going on a ballot and go from there.
Okay, that's kind of what we did with the Brushy Mountain Resort when I was on the county commission. Is we voted to let the people decide.
Yep.
No matter whether I voted no or yes in the ballot box, I voted to let the people make that decision. Okay, Doug?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation we have. A lot of people don't realize. I know we have 3 establishments already in our county that can serve liquor by the drink if they so choose to. It's called resort status. We have one inside our city limits. It just got resort status. So, yeah, there is some stigma that goes along with that. And like Phil said, I think a lot of people says that, they want to point the finger at the mayor or the alderman and say, hey, y'all make this decision. Well, a proper mayor or alderman are going to listen to what these people are telling them they want. And then when I say people, the majority, what's best for your community. I think in my lifetime we'll see it in Wartburg. Depends on growth. I mean, if we had a motel move in here or a steakhouse move in here, and that was something that they had to have on their list of stuff, their punch list. We have to be able to serve this at our steakhouse or this at our motel, I think we'd be hard-pressed to say no to something like that. We need both of those.
Okay, appreciate that. Good answers, guys. Okay, so let's move on to the next subject, which is kind of a hot topic right now, this RV park that's supposed to be moving in. So we saw some discussion yesterday started on Facebook about this, okay? And so the current mayor, Jonathan Dagley, was conversing back and forth with some folks on there about that. One of his concerns about this RV park that was supposed to have already been completed that's still not done was it's kind of planted right in the middle of the city around some schools. And so his concern was just the concern of the safety of the children, which we'll get into school safety and stuff in a moment. But I don't know if that's necessarily a concern. I know that the original plan when they received the grant was for it to be privately operated. Basically, they would lease it to a private company to operate it, and now they're saying it may be a county employee that does it. So let's just kind of talk through that. I think, Doug, you're up first on this one. So let's talk about that RV park.
It's an interesting dilemma. I want to see growth in Wartburg, but not that type of growth inside the city limits. There's 30-plus houses up there in the area they've chose to put this campground. And there's just a variety of issues I can see coming out of this. Ordinances I spoke about earlier, it violates several ordinances inside the city limits. I do know the county owns the property, but they still have to abide by our ordinances. Then you've got the 30-plus houses up there that don't want it in their backyard. Permanent campers, I mean, look around our county. There's campsites going in everywhere because people want to come to Morgan County. That's great for outside the city limits. But when you start putting them in your backyard and you don't have a choice of that, then there's problems with it. You have people that will not keep them up. There's some regulations you could put in place that would make it feasible in some other places where they say 7 days and they have to move to a different spot where they don't homestead. But I'm not for it. And there's going to have to be some serious conversation about how this fits with the city of Wartburg, who's going to maintain it, the trash, the sewer, all those things that nobody seems to have an answer for right now.
Thank you, Doug. Again, let me just interject there because the original grant proposal, which I have here in my office through a Freedom of Information Act request, it does state in there, I believe, that I'm still reviewing it, that it was going to be private leased. So that would be the answer to that if they go by what the grant is, which is how you get the grant money, is you would have a private entity doing the trash and sewer, the water lines, which I think they just did the water lines. I don't know if they had a private company do it like the grant may or may not say. I'm going to look into that. But anyway, Phil, what about this RV park?
Well, I think, all in all, I mean, it's a good idea, not necessarily the right place. That's just my opinion. And Doug brought up the ordinance issue, which, I've been aware of that, and which I'm going to have to read deeper into it, but, it does say that they're supposed to have a permanent foundation. Now, to my knowledge, I don't know if any of this has ever been brought to the zoning committee. I'm not on the zoning committee. I know it's not been brought to city council formally. Now, I have had 2 conversations with Mr. Langley and asked a lot of those very same questions and didn't get a lot of information in those answers. And I did talk to him again about 3 weeks ago and requested another sit-down discussion about all this. And I brought up all those same things because I'm afraid what's going to happen is like every other thing. They'll start this. Who's going to go up there and make sure, is it 7 days? Is it 14 days? Do you got to move? Do you not got to move? You go up there and it's growed up like a hayfield. Nobody's mowed it. It's going to end up our city employees are going to get stuck up there having to maintain it and things of that nature, plus the city police department up there trying to take care of business and stuff. And we don't need that. We just need some answers. And if it's going to happen, there's things that need to be set in black and white so you can hold each other's feet to the fire.
Thank you for that, Phil. So we'll move on from the RV park now, and we will talk about school safety. So as you guys know, we've had in our nation been dealing with some things there. And as a mayor, you'll be the executive of a city or a municipality. So it'll be your responsibility with the police force and other ones to make sure that the schools stay as safe as possible. So we have school resource officers right now. I think we're working in conjunction again in that partnership with the county to do that. We also have city officers that are doing that as well. So let's talk about that a little bit. If you have any plans to change anything, you want to keep the SROs in the schools, things like that. Phil, I think you're up first on this one.
SROs in school, absolutely. I wish that there's a way that we could work it out that we had one in each of Wartburg schools. We work in conjunction with the county on that. Now, there is one thing that's a little bit upsetting as far as that deal goes is our city SROs don't get the same amount of money that the county SROs get, and we're doing the same job, and that's not fair. But hopefully we can get that worked out in the future. But I would love, especially, number one thing, keeping your kids safe, I'd love to have one dedicated to each school.
Okay, Doug, I know you've actually been an SRO before, so let's just talk about the SRO program a little bit.
Yeah, Tommy. Currently, I am that's the position I hold with the Morgan County Sheriff's Department. I'm SRO at Coalfield. I can share this little bit of information. We are in 5 weeks of training right now, a day a week. We're going to each school and looking at resources, what we have. We're going to be working with the city on how we can respond. I think one of the big fiascos that everybody keeps talking about is response time and what they didn't do and did do right in Texas. I'll allude back to what our school zones. We have 2 of them in city limits. I've been approached by a couple of people saying, hey, we need to open the school zones up to a higher speed, or just can make it one continuous school zone. But I think the biggest thing is we got to make sure we have an SRO in both schools. If the funding is not there from the county to pay that position, then we're going to have to get with the school board and get those positions up to speed on pay. I mean, I don't know of anything that's more important than 500 kids in one school and another 400 in another inside our city limits on a daily basis. That's 5 days a week on most weeks that, that's a huge responsibility.
I had something right there.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. Go ahead.
I agree, with one thing Doug said about the school zone thing. I think that ought to be one continuous speed limit through there. I don't think it needs to be raised because everybody's going to go 10, 15 miles an hour over that speed limit anyway. But you'd like to think that it's just a little confusion. They leave one school zone speed up and then slow down to the next. But once it's – just keep it all one speed all the way through there till you get clear of it.
Basically a drag race.
A drag race,
in between them.
exactly.
You got a drag race
Yes.
between school zones. Everybody gets the maximum speed. So
I don't want to talk about that, okay? All right, let's see here. I'm just kidding, guys. So we got let's do a little speed one on this one. We have some people asking questions about Nemo Tunnel. Are you for keeping it open or closing it? Just quick, open or close.
I'm absolutely for it. Working in the county, I see it every weekend and throughout the week. We have Jeeps coming to our area. It brings in revenue. They stop and eat in our restaurants. I mean, we need to be all full forward on doing that.
Okay, Phil?
Absolutely keep it open. Just like he said, you got people come through here, that's part of what draws it.
Yeah, it's been open, I think, since the 60s when it was decommissioned, 1960s. And for the first time in its history, there's trespassing signs down there now. And that's just that's a horrible thing. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. Okay, so we're going to move on to – we got 3 more questions here unless something pops up over here. We got 3 more questions. So let's talk about PUD, the Plateau Utility District, because they're now handling the sewer, I think, and that used to be a large responsibility of basically the mayor would handle the sewer and all those things. But now that that's underneath PUD, I mean, what do you kind of see that mayor's role being in handling of that? And do you agree with the PUD doing the sewer? Let's see here. Who went? Doug, it's your turn.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that Mike Monroe and his group of guys down there are taking over the sewer plant. I think it's important to look at what that's going to look like for Wartburg. I know part of the issues it's going to be with the lines and stuff like that. I've talked with Mike a little bit about that because one of the things that Phil alluded to was our roads and stuff like that. But it's going to be a hard decision to put down new asphalt when you know you're going to be jerking up new sewer lines possibly right down the middle of Wartburg, and be a kind of a waste of money on that to do that. So we're going to have to work in conjunction with them. I kind of hope the rates don't have a big increase. Like I said, we both live inside the city limits, so we pay our sewer bill is mixed in with our water bill. We have a great water quality when you look at their numbers and stuff like that. So I know Mike and those guys at PUD will do a great job with that, with the plant down there. I think they're going to be, equipment-wise, they're going to be better set up than we were at the city of Wartburg to handle a lot of stuff.
Okay, Phil.
Just as going forward, we have struggled and struggled and struggled with sewer. You wouldn't believe it, and it's a relief that they're taking this over. And trust me when I say the people of the city of Wartburg are going to benefit greatly from it. I mean, it's already went leaps and bounds from what they've done so far before they've even started replacing a whole lot of lines and stuff like that. But here's the key thing, and we talk about revenue, and it's not just for the city of Wartburg, but it's for Morgan County. If we're going to bring in any kind of businesses and all that stuff, manufacturing, you've got to provide sewer, or they can't come in here. Plateau Utility District is an entity that can handle running sewer and all that stuff, and it will help the city of Wartburg, and in the end, it'll help the future of Morgan County all around.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we have two more quick questions here because I know that you guys both have obligations. One is, I'm going to end on a certain one, but I'm going to ask this one in the meantime because we're getting questions about it, okay? It's about abusing authority. And so when you become mayor, either one of you, when that might be, we have people in places of power right now that are abusing their authority, whether it be inappropriate relationships with subordinates or whatever it might be, okay? And folks are asking these questions. And so let's just talk about that. If you're in a place of authority, or can people, the public, trust you in that? Phil, I think you're first.
Well, I'm not aware of anybody, as far as the city goes, there's any kind of situations like that. But no, I would be probably one of the easiest people that you ever worked for. I want to be more of your friend than your boss as long as you allow me to do that. And, but if I need to be your boss, I can be your boss. And you treat everybody with respect.
Okay, unfortunately, I might have had you muted on that, Phil. So,
well,
hey, that was not
it
a beep
is a
out.
Conspiracy.
It was not bleeped
yeah,
out.
You did.
But anyway, okay, Phil, just tell us that one more time. He's talking about the question is about abusing authority. If you're put in a position of significant trust as a mayor, are you going to abuse your authority?
Absolutely will not abuse my authority. I treat everybody that I come in contact with and encounter with utmost respect and courtesy.
Okay, Doug, now the question to you.
Yeah, that's a good question, and honestly, I work for the sheriff's department, and I have the authority of the sheriff when I'm out on the road, and making those decisions on how we deal with the public is an everyday practice for me. I don't have a problem if somebody's in the wrong, telling them they're in the wrong, but at the same time, approaching people with respect and the way you want to be treated is the way I'll be conducting business if voted in as mayor.
Thank you. I know that's just a concern for a lot of folks. People it's not necessarily the city it's happening, maybe the county or wherever that's happening, people that are in positions of authority having inappropriate relationships with subordinates. So that's just an issue that's come up, okay? Not accusing anybody of that. So, okay, now we're going to be down to our last question, and then we'll do the outros, okay? So the way this falls is, Doug, you're going to be up on this question, and it's real simple. It's a two-parter. What do you want to keep as the mayor? What do you think some of the strengths are, and what are some of the weaknesses that you want to improve on?
On the keep side, I want to keep that feeling in Wartburg of being Mayberry. I've had people in my family, cousins that have gotten married to people out of state, and when they come visit, they think Wartburg is just the coolest place ever. It's like Mayberry. They're used to seeing on Andy Griffith. I want to keep that feel, and at the same time, I want to be able to, make it better. There's things we can do better. It doesn't cost a lot to clean streets. Keep the trash picked up, keep things mowed and trimmed back and that kind of thing. And it makes it more appealing for people to want to set a business up. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm going to say this, Phil, 30 years ago when me and Phil was in high school together, we'd ever thought there was a Hardee's, a Taco Bell, or any of those places? We're growing. I like to see that continue.
Okay, Phil, same thing. What would you keep as when you become, if that happens, because you're right now the vice mayor. So if you were elected mayor, what would you like to see stay? What would you like to see changed?
I want to continue that hometown feel, you know, the old time like the Mayberry stuff. Employee retention, we've got a great bunch of employees. You know, I want to work all I could do, you know, to increase tourism and stuff like that, working with all the different committees and stuff here that do all their hard work. And one thing about the cleanliness and the mowing and all that, the last 2 years we have struggled. We were down as far as 3 employees, and we're finally getting back to full strength, and things are gradually coming along strong. So I'm going to stand tall with our employees on that. That wasn't all their fault.
Okay, we appreciate it. Well, guys, I want to take a moment to say thank you. We got one more segment here for you guys to kind of give your closing argument, so to speak, why people should vote for you as mayor. Phil, you won the coin toss and you deferred, so that means, Doug, you get to go first, and then Phil close us out. So, Doug, just kind of give us a wrap-up of why people should vote for you for mayor.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having us here again. And second of all, I want the citizens of Wartburg and the outlying areas that come to Wartburg to know that I have a vested interest in the city of Wartburg. I've lived here my whole life. I have real estate in this town. So therefore, I want to see it grow. I want to see it prosper. I want to see the expansion of some new businesses and stuff come to town. There's a lot of great things going on. From the Tanner building being opened up this year, we just need to keep growing on that stuff. But we have a bigger crowd that we can reach. I want to see people come to our area. I want to be able to put us on the map and say, all right, this is my starting point. What can I, what all do we have to offer here? I think one of the biggest things that we've got to do on that is we've got to get a established motel that a family feels comfortable coming and staying in. Indoors, entrances to it, multiple beds, somewhere's close to 100 beds, somewhere's like that. We have a unique situation with the prison and a new plant, Horaeus, is expanding. We have people come in all the time, and when you ask them where they're staying in Harriman and they're staying in Oak Ridge. We have ATVs going on. We're in between Windrock and Brimstone. While we don't have a place for those people to stay, I mean, if you go to Oak Ridge on any given weekend, there's probably a couple hundred of those staying in Oak Ridge. So I think if we can establish a motel, it'll help us with our infrastructure on that, bring in tax revenue. I want to touch on one thing, though, that didn't get touched on here. One thing when I was working for the city that was an aggravation to me, and I know it was the city employees, and I know Phil worked hard, we just couldn't come to a conclusion on it, is our health benefits for our city employees. I think it's got to be affordable health insurance at some point. We got to look outside the box on that. If we can partner up with the county on it to get them better rates, that kind of thing. But all in all, man, the city's in a good place. We just need to keep moving forward.
Okay, Doug, thank you for that. Phil, if you want to make a comment about the health insurance for employees first, that's fine. We also have one more quick question someone squeezed in, if you guys don't mind.
I don't care.
It's about the liquor license. That's a separate issue than what we talked about earlier, liquor by the drink. Do you foresee a liquor license coming in anytime soon? Doug, you can answer this real quick, and then Phil can just close us out.
I think that goes back to what I said earlier about if we had a restaurant come in or a motel or establishment that could be beneficial to our city, something like that. I think it's all in the growth, but as far as it's just going to be a numbers thing, I think it's going to be up to the citizens of the city of Wartburg.
Okay, thank you. Now, Phil, if you can just you can answer the liquor license one there, and you can also talk about the health insurance for the city employees, and then you can give your closing arguments.
Okay, I'll do both there. As far as the liquor license go, it's my understanding that once we reach the census enough that they can start the petition and come in. When that petition is brought to city council to be voted on, it will be both. It will be for a package store and liquor by the drink. So, and there'll probably only be one license issued as far as a package store, if it was to pass, if the voters voted it in. Back to the insurance question, trust me, we have researched this. We've even contacted the county about trying to get in with them. We cannot do it. We're right now, as sad as it is, we're getting insurance for the cheapest that the city of Wartburg can get it. We're going, through the pool, the municipalities and stuff. And if we stepped outside of that, it's going to go up $500 to $600. We just looked into it yet again. I hope if elected, I'm going to try to look and find a way to help subsidize that for some of the employees. But like I say, it all comes down to money. But I'm going to work hard to make it as good as I can for them. And I am proud of the fact that after all these years of city employees, we established them into the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System and also gave them a 401k option too.
Yeah, that's a plus there on that TCRS. I know everybody wanted that to get done. Doug, you got a quick comment about that before he makes his closing argument?
Let me clarify on the as far as the health insurance stuff like that. I think the city, if we cannot get them a better rate than what they have at this point, then the city needs to step up and take a bigger part of that premium off the employees.
Okay, thank you. That's what you're talking about there with that subsidy, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Phil, you got the closer here, and then I'll wrap it up when you're done.
Well, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the time and attention, and it's been a pleasure and an honor for me to serve this city for the last 8 years as an alderman and the current vice mayor, and I would love nothing more than to have 4 years of becoming your mayor. You know, I've got a lot of good ideas and things and stuff I want to see move forward, but at the end of the day, I want to know that when it's all said and done, I left it better than I found it. For you, the residents, even the county as a whole, and I'll always work hard to do that and keep this town and this county both, for what little influence I'd have in the county, moving in a positive forward direction. And I would really love, you know, the honor of being able to serve you 4 years as your mayor.
Gentlemen, I appreciate y'all being here as our first debate is wrapping up here with the Morgan County Today with the Wartburg City Mayor candidates. I hope you as the voters have learned something today. You guys can watch this on replay if you want and see these beautiful mugs over here and make your decision up. They had some really good answers, some things that are thought-provoking that will help you make your decision when selecting who to vote for. The voting will start July 15th through the 30th, and that is early voting. It's just in a couple weeks, like two weeks from tomorrow. And then the election day is August the 4th. It's a Thursday. So make sure you get out and vote. We need a big turnout here for a lot of different races that are going on. And make sure you tune in on July the 12th for our county executive debate. It'll be a similar format. We'll have the Mark Keck and Brian Langley in here to discuss the issues facing Morgan County and what their vision is for the future of Morgan County. So without further ado, I appreciate everybody. Have a great evening, and God bless.